There should be leftovers in there, ain't it? Babe, I said there should be leftovers in there, ain't it? I said there should be leftovers down there, ain't it? All the ice cream gone? Wow. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm sorry. I ignored this and it was an activity one, so it boosted us off. We're gonna wait a few minutes to see if some folks come back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hello, hello. Sorry guys. The inactivity thing got me. I know. I ignored this notification. I thought it was connection, but it was that inactivity thing. So it kicked us off. I'm like, I don't understand TikTok Studio. I don't understand it, but we're gonna start back with EJ, okay? So what I was looking for is if price decides to bounce from our CRT range, right? So this is our monthly. If price decides to go higher, I was looking for a target. And price already ran this high. Or did we get equal highs? Hold on. Okay, yep. Price ran that high. See that little bit? So this would be our next area that we would target if price was to decide to bounce off of the monthly CRT and the weekly CRT. Okay. So that's what we have on EJ. Now we can go down to UJ. And we'll start at our monthly. All right. And price has not ran a high or a low. But we are a few pips from, we're 251 pips. So I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to mark it, but I will be checking it every day throughout the week just to see. All right, so now I come over here to this weekly, and the very first thing I see is that price has hit a weekly fair value gap. All right, so we have a gap here. Okay, so it hasn't quite hit our 50% yet, which lets me know that there's still room for this to go higher on UJ. All right. Now UJ opened up on a mission. It is just Monday. This was last week, right? This was just today. This was just today because it's just Monday. UJ moved up a freaking 296 pips today. Was there news? Because this morning I looked at the market just to look, just to see what was going on, and all the JPY pairs. Why did I pull this up? All the JPY pairs just spiked. I was like, "Ooh, look at that!" Now I know it was finishing the move from last week. Y'all come get this from Kaya and close the laundry room door. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, okay. That's what we have right here. JPY 42.6. 42.6. That's why they spiked up like that, because the yen um, Trump tariff announcement. Is that what that was also? Okay, so we had some news at 12 for the yen. So what do we have tomorrow? We got core CPI tomorrow. That's going to be a good market mover at 7:30. That's 7:30 my time, Central Standard. TikTok is irking my nerves. Irking my nerves. Okay. You can see my face, right? Okay, so we got CPI tomorrow at 7:30. That's going to be a good market mover. And we have this gap right here, which price hasn't reached 50% yet. And then we can mark our weekly CRT zone. Okay. We have the high of last week, the low, and 50% of the range. All right, we'll come down to our daily. Price is at another gap here in the daily. Let's see where it left off at. Okay. But because since we're so close to this weekly, literally just a few pips away, I'm not going to mark that daily because this one is more important. Yes, this is USD JPY. Okay, so that's the only thing I noticed on the daily. Now I'm going to come down to the 4 hour. Now, since I know on UJ that I want to see price come back and hit this gap, right? I want price to come back in here and fill 50% of this. All right, so this is what I want to see for UJ. Now, the only way I'm taking this is if I get my candlestick patterns that I like to see, which is, remember, a pin bar or a morning star, okay? Something that's telling me that price is going to continue to move in that direction. So I am going to set my alert. Okay, because price could decide that it wants to completely fill this imbalance here and then come back and fill this opening gap. Okay, so I will wait and wait for my alert to go off and wait for price to show me what it wants to do. Okay, and we literally have the same gap on the hourly. Okay, and then our new week opening gap here. This is where Friday closed. This is where Sunday opened. This one right here. Okay. Friday closed here. Sunday opened here. This is new week opening gap. How do you decide how far back to go? When marking up your charts from the daily, do you have a rule how far back you go in time? From the daily, yes, just the previous candle, the previous day's candle. South side. Is south side below? I don't know my I think so. Do you think Southside Gaps will be hit tomorrow? That's the thing. I don't like predicting the market. All we can do is wait and see, right? So this is my first gap that I want to watch to see what price is gonna do, and then if it trades through, then I want to see what happens here at this gap. Why do you stop going live? Cause I be sleeping. Oh, why did this stop? Um, it stopped because of the inactivity thing. I didn't do the puzzle. So TikTok gives you notifications for some reason saying that is detecting inactivity, although y'all are commenting and I'm talking, and it just interrupted us. But we're back. I don't think GJ. So that was UJ. Now we're on GJ. Yeah, it is crazy. All right, so now we're on GJ. Okay. And GJ has ran our monthly high. All right. Did it run it? It's really close. Yep, it ran it by a little tiny bit. Okay. And then I'm going to come down to my weekly and mark my weekly zone. All right. And I don't see anything on my weekly. I don't see anything else on my weekly that I want to mark that I want to mark. Now I'm going to come down to my daily. All right. And on our daily, we got a new week opening gap also. You see that? And then we also have a fair value gap right here on our 50%. Let's go down to the 4 hour. Let's see what else our 4 hour is telling us. Now, according to UJ came just a few pips away from hitting that weekly gap. Okay. So UJ is saying that it wants to continue higher, but where is it going to continue higher from? We're not sure yet. So now I was trying to see if there was a target on GJ, if GJ decides it wants to continue higher, and we have a balanced price range. Okay. So we have a fair value gap and an inversion gap right here. So I am going to mark this up. So if price shows me that it wants to continue higher, then this area right here will be my TP area. All right, so I'm going to come back down to the 4 hour. And again, we have our new week opening gap. And then we have a fair value gap right here. So we have the same thing on UJ, right? I want to see price come into this gap and reject, and then I'll take it up into here, right? But if price decides that it wants to trade lower, then I'm going to watch out for my weekly CRT zone and this opening gap, okay, to see if price is either going to reject it, right? And then I'll take it back to here, or is price going to try to come lower, give us our break of structure, our retest, and then take it to the 50%, okay? But this is where patience comes in play, right? So all we can do is set our alerts and watch price. Okay, so I see some good setups on GJ, CJ, and UJ at the moment. All right, and then EJ. JPY pairs look like they're going to give us some money this week. Euro CHF, not so much. All right, CAD JPY. I'm gonna go back to our monthly. Okay, CAD JPY ran a monthly. All right, it'll come down to our weekly. Mark my weekly CRT. All right, then I'm gonna come down to my daily. And I want to see if there's another gap above for price to go higher like the rest of the pairs. And here we are right here. All right, then I'm going to come back to my 4-hour. Now this one is nice because this is our monthly. Remember, this red line is our monthly, and it looks like it's sitting right near our 50% of this gap, like almost. Okay, so again, we want to see what's going to happen in these areas. Okay, so buys or sells could happen because price could decide that it wants to come and fill this new week opening gap before continuing higher. Okay, but these are our areas that we want to watch price in. So I am going to set an alert on my monthly area right here instead of right here. All right. And the only one that I'm going to post in the group Discord, and I'm going to do it right now before I forget, is UJ. Okay. And we're going to track UJ. All right. So I'm going to label it so that we can know at a later point when looking at these charts what's going on. Is that a weekly fair value gap? Yes. All right. And that was a 4-hour fair value gap. make this the right color. All right, so I'm gonna put notes waiting for price to get to a POI, and POI is a point of interest. So these are our these two gaps are our point of interest. Okay. All right, and this is what we're waiting on. Make that a little bigger. And then we can draw out our POIs. Okay. Wrong way. Here. And here. All right, give me 1 second because I don't want anybody marking in here. All right, so UJ, this is the pair that we are going to be tracking during this beginner's course, okay? So you guys will have charts to go back and view how the market goes, works, right? And then you'll have like weekly charts to review during your studying. All right, so we're done with that. Okay, we finished GJ, right? Okay, next one, CAD JPY, which did we finish this week? Yes, we just finished this. All right, odd CHF. Let's go to our monthly. All right, price isn't near last month's high or low. It's just trading inside last month's candle at the moment. Come here. No, ma'am. Joe, come close this laundry room door. I'm sorry, y'all. I got a dog and kids, and the dog is like a kid. All right, and now that we come to this weekly, we have this big. This is a huge bearish engulfing. Close that door. Okay, and this engulfing candle left us with a gap. Now, was anybody here from the beginner's course? Can y'all tell me what candlestick this is? Nobody? All right, this is a gravestone doji. And I'll put these in the Discord, right? These are our candlesticks that we are learning. Okay, and here it is. A gravestone doji is a bearish version of the dragonfly. It is formed when the open and close are the same or about the same price. What differentiates the gravestone doji from the dragonfly is the long upper tail. The formation of the long upper tail is an indication that market is testing a powerful supply or resistance area, okay? So it's right there. And these gravestone doji It's indicating bearish movement, and then right after it, we got this big bearish engulfing candle that left us this fair value gap, and this is a bearish fair value gap. So what you want to see at a bearish fair value gap, you want to see price come back to the 50% and then continue lower, right? So currently, price has done just that. It came back to the 50% and it rejected it. Now we have 3 days left in this week, technically, right? Because this is Tuesday's candle, so it's saying 3 days, 18 hours. So we want to see how this candle closes, right? Is price going to push down and head back down to the low, or is price going to break through it and then retest it and continue higher? Okay, so that's a significant area, so we are going to mark that, and then we're going to do last week's CRT range, which it looks like price is approaching. All right, then we come to the daily, and it looks like everything gave us new week opening gaps. So this was Friday's, this was Monday's candle. Okay, and then there is another gap above. So if price decides that it wants to get on top of this gap, then we'll know what we're taking our price to, which is this 50% of this gap. Okay, so if price decides that it wants to come back and close outside of our CRT range and get on top of this gap, right, then we'll take it to this gap. And if you come on the 4 hour, right, this section right here is an uptrend, right? Because price is making higher lows and higher highs, higher lows and higher highs, higher lows and higher highs. So it would be nice if price could come back here and give us our CRT range for that higher low, and then we could possibly take it back up for a higher high. All right. So price already traded outside of our CRT range, right? It also gave us a break of structure. So let's follow this structure, right? So this was our low. This is our lower high. I'm sorry, higher low. Here, here, here. Price pulled back to here. And then it pushed up to here because these 2 points are equal, okay? This is our pullback here. This was a little baby pullback that led up to here, okay? So this was our last lower high that gave us our higher high, okay? So this is our break of structure area on our hour time frame. Now, technically, price has not broken structure because neither candlestick bodies closed underneath. If I zoom in, you see how price wicked underneath here, but the candlestick body still closed above. So that's our sign that price is trying to push back. Now we have a gap here. Okay. So remember, there's two scenarios always, right? Or really three. Price can consolidate, price of buy, price of sell. So what we want to see for a buy, price has to get on top of this gap and this gap, right? Because price could just come back to this gap and then reject, right? So price has to get on top of this gap because this was our weekly gap. It was our higher time frame gap. Yep, it was our weekly gap. Okay? So price is going to be a little more hesitant at that area. The higher time frame POI, okay? The more price is drawn to it, right? So it could come back and touch it one more time, right? So price could do this, okay? But if price decides it wants to get on top of this gap, remember you have to wait on a retest and wait for price to reject it to show you that it's going to this gap. And remember that was our daily gap, okay? Now, price could also decide that it just wants to reject from this area. Now, if price comes back into this CRT range, right? You see we have prices trying to form another fair value gap right here. It's not a fair value gap yet because this candle has to close, right? Because this candle just opened. There's 53 minutes left in this candle. There's a possibility that price will come back into this area and fill this zone. But if it doesn't, if price never trades back and doesn't fill this zone, then that's going to be a nice gap, right? You will want to see price reject it. You will want to see price come underneath this gap and then retest this same gap. And that would be your entry. And then you'll take it down to 50% of the range, okay? Which will fill our new week opening gap. Okay? But since we have so many gaps, we have one here, and one here. Our main two areas of concerns to watch price from is this one and this one. Okay? So that weekly gap and then this hourly gap. And remember, this weekly gap is stronger. So don't be tricked by price coming to this area, right? And consolidating like this. Okay? When price gets to this area, let it get back underneath here. Give you a break of structure and another gap. Or if this, when price closes and this creates a gap, let price come back in this zone and then come underneath this gap, retest it, and then take it lower. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay. I'm going to move that up. And I am going to set my alert here. All right, GBP odd. GBP odd is another one that's been moving pretty well lately. We're getting some good pips on GBP odd, and it's following market structure pretty well. Okay, so price is near last month's low, right? And then I also have a fair value gap right here, which is let me know that price wants to come lower. So I'm going to mark this monthly fair value gap. Okay. And I'm also going to mark last month's lows because price has now created liquidity, equal lows, right? Relatively equal lows. They're not exactly equal, so relatively equal lows. monthly is red. Okay. All right, now I'm going to come down to my weekly. Do I have some other stuff on here? Okay. And now I'm going to mark up my weekly CRT. And this is going to be another one. Like every pair, we're going to wait and let the market tell us what it wants to do. Just because we have this weekly gap right here, we can't assume that price is automatically just going to sell, right? Price could want to come up and take out this high and then move lower. Or price could just automatically move lower and then bounce up off of that area and buy, right? So we want to see what's going on. So we come over here to this daily, right? Price had an impulsive move. It consolidated for a couple of days and then impulsive move. Okay. So now we come down to the 4-hour. Price has already filled our new week opening gap. This is our new week opening gap right here. Okay. I was taught that if price comes back to the new week opening gap and closes underneath it, then price wants to move lower. If it comes back to the new week opening gap and closes above it, then it wants to move higher. And in this case, this was just an impulse, right? A correction, and now we'll see a continuation. But the only thing about the continuation is finding a good entry. Okay? So we got an hour, 48 minutes GBP. Odd is a London pair. Let me double check. Because I know pound is, but I don't know what odd trades in. What time is it? 10 o'clock? Love you. Tell Joe to get in the tub because I know I told him to get in that tub earlier. I thought you did. Joe, come here. Now you answer that question, Sienna. Didn't I tell you to get in the tub earlier? You wasn't waiting for her. Go get in the tub. Okay. Where were we? We got this impulse, correction, back to the gap, and then continuation. Now we'll come down to the 1 hour and let's see. Okay. Again, price looks like it's creating a gap for us. We have 47 minutes left on this gap. Okay. If price decides that it wants to close lower and not come into the gap, then this is where I would like to see price move back into. But technically, this isn't a gap yet because this candle isn't closed. Okay. So then we can come down to the 30-minute. Okay. And this one right here is a gap. Okay. But I like to wait on this one. You can wait on this one, or you can use this one right here. Okay. And just wait for price to trade underneath it. Come back here will be an entry, and TP will be down here at this, what was it? Monthly 50%. So it's the purple line. Where's our purple line? Uh-oh. We lock that. Here. Okay. So this one is where you could do stacking entries, right? If you get confirmation for this to actually close and end up being a gap, because remember this candle has to close, right? Then you can do your first entry here. What did she do? Kaya, no biting. All right, it's your bedtime too. Go to bed. Santa, call her. All right, I'm sorry. So, stacking entries. So, if this candle closes, right, and leaves us a gap, then your first entry will be here. And then you'll wait for price to come underneath, retest it, because it's going to retest this area regardless. But and then TP down here, okay? So GBP odd is the most promising one. And I'm definitely going to set alert here and here, okay? Because sometimes GBP odd just likes to run and leave gaps, but it will give you a way in. And I'm putting crossing up because I want to see price come through it and come back to it, okay? And then the same with this one. I want to see price come back to it. All right. GBP odd. We did odd CHF, Euro CHF, odd CAD. Odd CAD did me dirty last week. I'm not trading it this week. I'm saying I'm leaving it because it's looking like consolidation, right? Let me show y'all. Price isn't moving out of this area. It's not making a new high or a new low. Okay, I'm gonna leave odd CAD alone this week. AJ, yeah, you're not in there. Okay, AJ. Is the same thing that we're looking for with the other ones, right? We got our new week opening gap. Price has already filled in this 50% of this area, and price left equal highs up here. And hold on, because why AJ moving so fast? What the rest of them? Okay. Okay. All right. AJ's moving faster than the rest of them. AJ looks like it's already on its way on up. All right. So price is close to last month's high. So I am going to mark that. All right, then I'm going to come down to my weekly, and I'm going to mark my weekly CRT. Let me fix my box. Okay, and we'll come down to our daily. Now, the rest of the other pairs, our daily had a fair value gap up here that we could take price to. So I don't see one here on AJ. Let's see on our 4-hour. All right, so it looks like our target is our monthly high, okay? And it looks like price is running for it. So we have our monthly high here, and we have some relatively equal highs. and price came back into 50% of the gap. Okay, so we have this gap and we have this new week opening gap down here. All right, so AJ seems to already be gone, right? This is our morning star pattern off of that gap there. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't like to leave that rectangle on my chart. Let's see it. All right. AJ seems to be moving on up. Only thing I would say about entering this right now is the risk to reward ratio, right? It has to be a 2-to-1 or better, although 1.87 is close. Because my entry has to be down here near the gap. So AJ has already left. I'm going to set my alert up here just to see if we can get a monthly CRT move, right? Because we want to see price come outside of the range. And then that will give us a bigger play to the downside. Okay. From the monthly high to this weekly opening gap is a good 180 something pips, right? So am I frozen? TikTok studio, man. I'm not gonna end this live. I'm just gonna have to post it frozen. But as long as y'all can see my charts, right? Okay. So that's what I'm waiting for on AJ. I want to see price run that monthly high. So I want to see, is anything else moving back up on these JPY pairs? GJ created a gap. Trying to figure out if I missed these gaps the first time. UJ has that same gap. Okay, so remember they all have that area at the top right here that we want to see price come to. And then we will see what happens. Ultimately, I'd like to see price, of course, pull back into here and then give us 50% of our CRT range. And hopefully we can get monthly CRT moves this week. Okay. Odd CAD. All right, odd CAD. Let's see. All right, price is 121 pips from the monthly high. Odd CAD doesn't really give you big moves like that on a regular, right? So we can come down to the daily and measure a previous daily candle. It's like 73 pips, okay? So I'm not gonna mark that monthly high, but I will keep an eye out for it. So I'm just gonna come to the weekly. Oh wow, and it looks like price is already moving along with our weekly CRT. So we got our weekly high, our weekly low, and 50% of the range. All right, I'm just going to come down to the hourly. I want to see what happened. Okay, so price came outside of our range and instantly came down to our 50%. This would have been one of the ones that you'd have to catch on the lower time frame. This happened today. It definitely happened today. Okay, you see this is Monday the 12th. I'm looking for a gap. I'm looking for the gap. So this was our break of structure point, right? So this was our impulsive move. This was a retrace, and then this is our last high. So this was our 3-minute break of structure. This was our fair value gap. Price never came back up here. So I'm looking to see if price gave another gap on the lower time frame. Okay, and it did. So since price never came back up to that other gap, it left us a gap right here on the 1 minute, and that would have been entry to get this down here to the 50% for 33 pips. So now it's looking like price wants to continue lower because now we are underneath 50% of that range, and it left us an hour fair value gap right here. So this is saying that it wants to come lower. Okay, so remember, we are looking for rejection. Okay, we're looking for that evening star pattern. Okay, we're looking for that pin bar pattern, and we want to take it back to last week's low. We don't want to extend our TP. Okay, we just want to take it back to last week's low. Now if price gets on top of this and retest it, then you just take it back to the high. Okay, it should be more than enough pips. And then possibly, let's see what happened at this gap. Okay, so price hit that gap already, which is what's leading us down to this sell. Okay, so sells look more of a high probability on OddCat than the buys. Okay, but we're definitely going to see what happened at this gap. And OddCat looks like it's not playing any games. I ain't never seen it move this fast. But that's what happens when price comes to these higher time frame fair value gaps, right? Okay, so did I put my alert? Cross up, create. I like this one. I'm moving that up. I may come back up on here at 3 a.m. Depends on if I'm still up or not. If I am up, so when we get off this live, just click that notification bell if you're going to be up trading London. If I'm up, I'll be on here, and we'll see what kind of entries we can get. All right, OddCAD. I'm leaving these CHF pairs alone. Odd NZD. All right, so we're not near a high or a low on the monthly, and we've already ran last week's high. Okay, and if odd NZD is going to move like OddCAD, then we're in a good position to catch the sell. Now, the only thing that I see different on odd NZD than I do on OddCAD is odd NZD, we have this gap right here. We have a weekly gap right here. And it looked like price is trying to reach up there. Okay. So this is our weekly high on our weekly CRT. All right. And it looks like we got our impulsive move our correction back into the gap. Price just barely hit 50%. So if price doesn't hit my 50%, I don't trade it because that's called inducement. Most of the time, price does end up coming back to the 50%. Okay. So right now, price is consolidating. It's trying to figure out what it wants to do. The only thing I can say is I'm going to wait for this area. I'm going to wait for this area. Okay. More than likely on AUD NZD, because we have this impulsive move, I would like to see price come back and touch this 50%, which would be our correction, and then continue up here to this weekly gap, which would be our continuation move. Okay. If price does decide that it wants to come back in and trade underneath this gap and then retest and do a weekly CRT play, then you could take it down to the 50%. That's 32 pips. And this one is 50. I would prefer the 50 pip trade over the 30 pip trade. Okay. So it's just waiting on confirmations. All right. You can also draw a trend line on this one. And if price comes back down and touch this trend line and then closes on top of this gap, that's definitely showing you that price is going to try to continue up. Then you have this trend line where you can do price break underneath that gap, break underneath this trend line, and you'll have a perfect retest at the trend line and the gap. Okay. That's AUD NZD. All right, so we have US 30. US 30, you can do higher time frame zones. You can do monthly and you can do weekly, right? I try to do the 4 hour unless I just see something that sticks out to me on the higher time frames. And right now, what is sticking out to me is this fair value gap here. So I'll mark up this monthly gap, and then I'll come down to my weekly, and I'll mark up my weekly zones. All right, and then I'll come down to my daily just to see if I see anything else that sticks out to me. All right, and besides this big bullish engulfing candle that's let me know that price wants to continue higher, I don't really see anything else that I want to mark off. So now I'll come down to the 4 hour. And we have a gap right here on the 4 hour. Okay. So I would want to see price either come back into this gap or retest this weekly zone, or price could come back into this gap. So this just gives me areas that I can scalp in on US 30. Okay. And this gives me entry points and exit points, right? So this gap would be an exit point, but this gap would be an entry point, right? So if I get the right confirmation, then I'll enter here and I'll exit here, right? But then if price comes underneath here and underneath this weekly, then I want to see price come here. Okay. So it's all about waiting on your confirmations. But this just gives me zones, areas that price will trade into where I can enter and take profit at, right? Because with US 30, price could come all the way back here and it could come to the 50%, right? And then decide to come up here to this gap. Or you could just get a small pullback and price just come here and then up to this gap. But these are my higher time frame zones, right? And what I'll do on US 30, I'll mark my higher time frame zones, then I'll come down to my 1 minute and I'll trade inside those areas on my lower time frame. So right now we are so far from any zone, right? But we can do 5-minute time frame, and you can do your 5-minute structure, right? And so this was a low, this was a high, this was a pullback, high, pullback, high. So this was our last pullback that took us to this high on our 5-minute. And you can mark up a break of structure here. And you can wait for price to break structure and then pull back into a fair value gap. And if you see, price already hit this gap right here. Okay. So now there's a possibility price break structure and then hit this gap. And then you can take it down to this 4-hour gap or take it down to this low. Okay. So with US 30, especially if you don't have a bigger account, just trade the zones, just trade the smaller ranges because you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot of pips at all. And here to that 4-hour range is 300 and something pips, points, whatever you want to say. And then you can go back down to this low, that's 192. Okay. And then if we just look at it on the 4-hour, the 1 hour, this 4-hour gap aligns with that 1-hour gap. Okay. So these are some strong areas to where we'll want to see price come back into. All right. Then you got another gap right here on the 30-minute. So you literally can go from this break of structure to this gap. 44 points is a lot on US 30. It goes a long way. And then you can wait for price to come underneath here and then take it to this structure point, right? And then you can wait for price to come underneath that structure point and take it to this gap. Nas would be the same thing, and SPX, right? All right, so Nas has closed on top of our monthly gap, but US 30 is still reaching for the monthly gap. Now, since it is a monthly gap, I'm going to mark it up because now I want to see price come back and retest it to let me know that it's still going to hold. Okay, so if I come down here on the hourly, this was our monthly gap. I want to see price come back into this area and then continue higher or trade underneath it and let me know that it's going lower. Okay, but I want price to show me what it's going to do. So again, I'm going to mark my weekly zones. Okay, and I'm going to mark this weekly gap. right, and let's go down to the daily, and we have that exact same impulsive candle that US 30 had. Okay. Now you have your weekly gap above, right? When price buys, this would be your TP. But for now, we're going to mark this area. Although price already hit this gap, we want to see if price is going to come back and retest it possibly, right? Because sometimes price hits gaps twice. Or we want to see if price is going to come underneath it, retest it, and then come back into our weekly CRT high. And then this was another gap right here before bouncing back up. Okay. And this is our range for for NAS. This is our range for NAS. Okay. Euro odd. All right. Euro odd is looking like GBP odd. We have that monthly gap down there. I need to rearrange these. See, we have that same gap down there. All right. I'm not going to mark my monthly low, but I am going to mark this monthly gap. All right, and then I'm going to mark my weekly CRT range. And price has already ran our weekly low. All right, we'll come down to our daily. And as you can see, we had a gap here and price already decided to reject that gap. Okay, so it hit it. I'm going to delete it because I know I want to see price come underneath it, right? And it's so close to my weekly CRT range, right? So I'm not going to keep that marked up. Now I'm going to come down to my 4 hour. Okay. Same thing with this gap. Price already came into it. All right. So this gap you can keep up. Okay. Now, when you want to get a valid trade of price moving outside the CRT range versus coming back into the CRT range, you want to see price trade outside of the range and then come back and retest the range or a nearest gap, which is right here. Okay. So you want to look at for your retest either here or here and then take price lower to this monthly gap. Okay. So price on Monday, it already hit this 4 hour. It already sent price back up. Okay. And now it's telling us that price isn't going to create another high. It's given us a 3 candle fair value gap sequence, which we haven't talked about yet, right? So it's giving us a 3 candle fair value gap sequence, which is 1 candle. The middle candle is the gap. The third candle it's just the next candle. Then you'll want to see price move back into the range, right? So you can get an entry here, right? As long as it rejects, because remember, you do not want it to come back in and then trick you and trade through, retest, and then complete that CRT range, and then come back up here and fill in this new week opening gap here. Okay. So if you just want to be extra sure, right, you'd allow price to close underneath this gap. Okay. And then retest this gap. And that still will give you a good risk to reward. It's saying 300 and something pips. And the odd pairs move nicely, right? So this is a 4-hour candle right here. Just alone in this 4-hour candle was 100 pips. Okay. So you can get some nice pips on odd pairs. So I am going to set 2 alerts. I'm going to set an alert here. And Odd Cat has gone off. So let's go see what Odd Cat is doing. And then I'm going to set an alert here. Alrighty. All right, so OddCAD has moved back into our area that we are looking for sales on. So OddCAD is a, I want to say it's an Asian pair. I want to say it's an Asian pair, but let's double check. I'm gonna put that in the Discord too. Okay. When to trade, what pairs to trade during each session, but let's see. All right. Yep. Sydney and Tokyo sessions. Okay. So Australia banks are open right now. I'm gonna leave that so I can put that in the group. Okay. So let's come down to the 1 minute and let's watch OddCAD. Where is it at? Okay. So it's at 50% of our weekly CRT range, and price has come back into a bearish fair value gap. Okay. So price left us another gap right here, right? The safer entry would be for price to get underneath this gap, because since price is already moving up, right? Price had to move up to hit this area. It could easily come back into this gap and then continue higher. So what we want to see is a break and retest of this gap. So we're going to sit here and watch price action on this one, and I'll be right back. I'm going to go to the restroom. right, so y'all see why we wait? Although over here, right, price gave us an evening star, price still decides that it wants to continue higher. Okay, so I see another fair value gap here on the 5-minute. Let's see what happens at that one. This is why it's important to move between time frames to see what price is doing, okay? These spreads always look wider than what they are. Okay, it's 3 pips. I'm like, what's going on here? All right, price is pushing on up. All right, and this is why we don't hold on to a bias, right? So price is clearly giving us bullish movement, okay? I'm back on the 30-minute and it's 10:53, so we have 6 minutes left on this candle, okay? Ooh, GPP off. So now this is where we continue to see what price is going to do, okay? Because price could still come back underneath here, right? Or price could just retest and come higher. Okay, so we're still trying to see what price is showing us on here. GBP odd. Okay, GBP odd is moving its way on down, which is why odd CAD is pushing up. Okay, and I say that because the odd is in front of odd CAD, and then the odd is in the back of GBP odd. So they should be doing the opposite of each other. All right, so none of it has given us any type of entries yet. And it's 11:55 Eastern Standard Time. So the best thing to do is just to wait for the next session for an entry. Okay. So entry time for this session would have been between 9 and 10. So the next session will be London session. Okay. So it'll be between 3 and 4. Yeah, look at that candle. That's giving us a big morning star. I was trying to see if price continue higher than this area where would be a TP, but I don't see. So we're going to keep moving because that's not giving us any entry. All right, and now we are on to Euro USD. All right, so Euro USD will come over to our monthly. All right, and you see we're not near a monthly high or low. Okay, I do have a monthly gap down here, but we are some ways away, about 400 pips. So I'm not going to worry about that monthly gap right now. Okay, what I am going to do is mark up my weekly CRT range. All right, then I'm going to come down to my daily. And we have a fair value gap right here. Now, as you can see, price already traded through it, but remember we use it as an inversion now, right? So price traded through it. Now I want to see price retest it and trade lower, or come get on top of it and trade higher. Okay, and now on our 4 hour, looks like price traded into this gap right here, which is what's sending price back up. I'm not going to mark that gap, but I am going to mark this one now. Because if price decides that it wants to come back up, retest our weekly CRT low, and then come back down, this will be our TP area right here. Okay. And we also have this gap right here, right near our weekly CRT area. Okay. All right, so this would be my main area that I want to figure out what's going to happen. Okay. So either price is going to come up and reject and come back down to this 4 hour gap, or price is going to come up and trade inside of it and then give us our CRT move. Okay. So EU and GU should mainly look the same. Let's mark up the dollar real quick and let's see what the dollar is showing us. All right, so already just looking at this 4 hour, we have the same thing, right? We have a gap right here. This is gonna let us know what price is gonna do. If the gap is gonna come back to this area and go higher, which it should, right? Because it's a bullish fair value gap. But sometimes they don't always hold up the way that they should. Okay. And that's why we use it as also an inversion. Okay. And then price also left us a new week opening gap. Okay. All right. So that's the dollar. We got EU. Move these up. CHF is going to come down. CAD CHF. Am I lagging? I'm sorry, guys. There's nothing I can do about it. CAD CHF. TikTok Studio. TikTok is starting not to like me. Streamlabs, they won't let me get back on my Streamlabs to stream. I keep appealing it. I don't know what else to do. And then TikTok Studio is like trash. We're marking up CAD CHF now. All right. So CAD CHF, we're inside the monthly. Last month, we haven't broken a high or a low. So there's nothing really on the monthly that I'm worried about right now. Come to the weekly. All right, and we'll mark up our weekly CRT. And price is already traded on top of our weekly CRT. I just want to measure and see how big last week's candle was. All right, it's 70 pips. So this would be a small CRT move if price does do it. If it does plays out. All right, so we also got a big impulsive move from outside of our weekly CRT range. Okay. Price also gave us a new week opening gap. Now, the only difference that I have on this one versus the other one, we have a trend line here, and we can look for a trend line break and retest. Okay. So we would like to see price come back down to our new week opening gap, which would align with our trend line and retest it and take it higher. But then you also have this gap here that it could go higher off of, which is right on top of our weekly CRT. Now with it moving up higher, let's see. I see a gap up here, but that looks like it's some ways away. I just want to see how many pips. Okay, it's only 90 something pips, so that's decent. Okay, so this will be a valid TP area. All right, so here, I won't be taking a CRT move, right? What I want to see is how price reacts at our new week opening gap or our weekly CRT zone, okay? And that's where I will put my alerts. I thought I did that. Okay. Okay, let me do this before we get disconnected. This is why we got disconnected last time. I can't believe I'm frozen. I thank you guys that's here. Thank y'all for being attentive. I hope y'all are learning something, and I hope you catch some pips with us this week. But I will be back tomorrow at 8. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna put my alert here. I don't know why I keep redrawing that because I don't want it to look like that. And delete that. All right, here we go. Down right there. And then the weekly CRT. And these are the two areas that I would want to see price bounce and go higher. More so the trend line than the weekly CRT area, right? Because this would be a perfect break and retest of a trend line. You're welcome. All right, odd CHF, Euro CHF we did. We did odd NZD. All right, AU. Odd pairs looks like they're moving with a vengeance. I just want to come down here to the odds future chart real quick. Okay. If you guys don't know, if you are focusing on one pair, so for instance, we are focusing on UJ in the student course, you can go to the yen futures chart, okay? And then you can look at UJ and you can look at DXY and compare all three of those. All right. And this lines up with our JPY pairs, GJ and stuff going higher, right? If price comes to this area and go lower, then we'll get that same reaction on these pairs. Where's that gap? Right? Got that gap and then they go higher. All right. So I wanted to look at odd. Okay. So this is why, what was that pair? Odd CAD seems to be moving back. Our gap on the odd pair to go lower is up here. So where was it? Odd CAD looks like it wants to come higher before going lower. I don't see another gap up here. There's one here on the 30-minute that it could retest and then consolidate at, or it could just continue to push higher and then come back and retest our weekly CRT and then come lower, right? But as you can see on our hourly time frame, price is making lower lows and lower highs, okay? All right, and this high is still lower than that one. So this is like equal lower highs, all right? And we got our break of structure, and then we have that odd has another gap down here. Right here on the weekly. That price looks like it wants to push down into. We just got to get to here. So for sure, wouldn't be taking any odd sales until the odd pair, just Australian dollar future, lets us know what it's going to do. Okay. I stop at the 1 hour and then my 1 hour gaps, I'll go down to the 15-minute, 5 minute, the 3 minute, and the 1 minute when price gets to those gaps and look for entries. But I mark up from the monthly, the weekly, daily, 4 hour, and the hour. And see, price is still pushing up on NZD. Remember, I said we were too late for this entry, and it's coming up here. So that confirms it with that odd future pair, how prices continue to push up. All right, so we got this same gap on AU. This same gap on AU. Okay. So let's mark it up. Okay, so AU might give us a full monthly CRT play because AU has ran our monthly high. And the futures pair, hey, showed us that there was a gap but below that price wanted to come to. And let's see if there's one here on the weekly. There is one here on the weekly. And that, no, doesn't look like 50%, but let's see. Okay, so we're going to mark our monthly high. And I am actually going to mark on this one my monthly 50%. All right, which is all the way down here. Okay. So now I'm going to come to my weekly. And price has already ran my weekly low. And on this one, I'm not going to mark my weekly high, right? Because I want to see price pull down into this weekly gap, okay? So I am going to mark my weekly 50% though, just so that I can know where we are. All right, and since my weekly 50% is so close to my monthly high, I'm not going to mark that either. So I'm only going to keep in touch with my monthly high, my weekly low, this weekly fair value gap, and then this monthly 50%, okay? So now I'm going to come down to my daily. And you see how price came underneath the monthly high, and it looks like it wants to reject off of our weekly CRT right here. This is our weekly CRT low. Okay. We'll come down to our 4 hour. All right. Now on our 4 hour, price has given us a high, right? And this is our break of structure right here. So price has broken our structure on our 4 hour. Price left us a fair value gap. Price came back to retest this monthly and close beneath our 4 hour fair value gap. Okay. So price is trying to make some downtrend structure, right? But let's see where we can get our next lower high point to take it to our next lower low. Okay. So right here. This is why I mark everything up, because some odd pair. So this one would be a better trade than that odd cat looked decent. There was another one. Was it AJ? Odd CHF. Right? It'd be more pips. Okay? So I like to take the one that's gonna give me the best risk to reward ratio, and the one that gives me the best looking setup that follows all of our rules. Where'd it go? It was on AU, right? There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna set my alert here. And remember that lined up with the dollar. The dollar had that gap also. All right. So this is looks like a trending market. And this is what we like to trade, a trending market. Okay? Because all you waiting on is a break of structure and then price to return back to the gap. And then continue. I put stop loss right here at this wick because this wick is kind of high. But you can do both of them because that'll give you a 1 to 2. You can do this wick, right? I do this one. Wait for price to come back here and show you some type of rejection on our lower time frames. Okay. And this is why you wait, because there's another gap right here, right above it, that it could come into that one. So I'm definitely going to move this one up. We got some good price action this week. We got some really good price action this week. This was AU. AU. So we're looking for sales on AU. We're looking for price to come back into this hourly fair value gap and then trade down into this weekly fair value gap. Okay. All right. GBP CHF. Kind of want to leave GBP CHF where it's at, but it gave me some decent trades last week. So let's see. Okay, GBP CHF. Come to the weekly. We got this big gap right here. That's nice. That's nice to see. Which would align with was GBP on still pushing up? No, that one was going lower. Okay. Let's come to our monthly. Price is just trading inside of the monthly. Doesn't really look like it's moving. We'll come down to our weekly. This is a bearish fair value gap, right? But we want to see price get to 50%. So we have a little bit of room left for price to come up here. All right, I am going to mark my weekly CRT high, 50%, and my low. All right, price is about 116 pips from that weekly fair value gap. So that is a reasonable target, right? Not too much. It's not 300, 400 pips. So it's reasonable. All right, let's see. We'll come down to our daily. And price has closed on top of our weekly CRT and looks like we are inside of a daily fair value gap. Okay, we haven't reached our daily gap yet. Okay, so what we have a probability of seeing on this daily gap is price coming up, touching this gap, and then retesting our zone or coming back into this gap, okay? And then coming back up to our weekly. That'll give us more pips. That will give us more pips also. Now, GBP CHF could decide that it just wants to keep running also, right? And it could get on top of here, retest, and go to here. Now, my only thing is if it does that, I don't want it because it's only 60 pips, right? I would prefer to wait for it to get to 50% and then catch some of that rejection trade. Okay? So if it gets up in here without pulling back, then I'm going to wait for it to get here. And then I'm going to catch some of that sell rejection because this is a bearish fair value gap. Okay? And it's a higher time frame. So it's good to reject and give me a decent amount of pips. All right. So we have a 4-hour fair value gap right on top of our weekly CRT range. And then we have a daily fair value gap right here. So these are going to be the two areas, this weekly CRT or this daily fair value gap that I want to look for to take price back up into this weekly fair value gap, okay? Now GBP CHF looks way better than AUD CHF and Euro CHF. All right, gold. Gold is one of those pairs where Gold really does whatever it wants to do. Okay? So every now and then you'll see that gold will act right. Okay? And last week I caught this sell to here, right? I wasn't trying to overextend my TP to see where it was going any further, right? It's another one that you don't need to catch a lot of pips on to make some decent amount of money. Okay? So we'll start on our monthly. This currently is in a fair value gap because this candle is not closed. Okay? So price has not ran a high or a low on our monthly. So now I'm going to come to my weekly. Okay, odd CHF. Let's see what it's doing. I forgot I didn't want to trade it. Anyways, I need to take the alert off. Nope, on CHF is what I want to trade. What's it doing? Let's see. All right, price is moving up. Remember, price is pushing up on these odd pairs. I'm not worried about it until this alert goes off. So I'm gonna leave that one be. Okay, so we'll go back to gold. Nothing on our monthly. Now we're on our weekly. Okay. And if we just look at this weekly, we have the week before last week, and now this week. Price is trading inside of a range. And here. You see that? All right. Although it's wicking outside of it, these bodies aren't closing outside of it. Hey. All right. So the week before last, when this candle happened, I wanted to see price come down to this gap. Price was like, nope. It came back, tried to come back higher, but it failed to trade higher. So maybe this week, price is going to go for this area. All right. So I'm not going to mark that, but I am going to mark last week's CRT range. Okay. My high, my low, and 50% of my range. All right. Now we're going to move down to the daily. And let's see. All right. So you see how we got this ping pong movement right here? All right, so I don't see anything else on my daily that I want to mark up. Now I'm going to come down to my 4 hour. Okay. So last week, gold came back into this gap and then traded and gave us a low, right? But price did not come and break this last low here. But it looks like it's trying to pull back up. So we have two areas on gold that we want to watch. We have this gap, which it looks like price already touched it. And then we have this gap. Now, gold, you can do the same way I do NAS and US 30. I mark up my higher time frame ranges, and then I just trade inside of those areas, right? So if price decides it wants to get on top of here, right, then I would take it to here, okay? And then I will wait to see if price is telling me that it wants to sell from this area, and then I would take it down to here, okay? But this is a ping pong move, right? Just wait. These are your zones, okay? And let these zones, let price show you at these zones what it wants to do, okay? So price tried to reject this area, okay? But it looks like it's not trading any lower because it's sticking to our weekly CRT low, okay? It left some liquidity down here. We have these two relatively equal lows, and then we have this weekly gap right here. The only thing that I can say about this area for a safe trade, because gold is iffy, okay? A safe trade or a safe way to get down here is to let price bounce off of this gap again and then come back down here and break this structure and then retest this structure, or see if price creates a gap in this area and then retest that gap, okay? So either retest this structure or retest a gap if it creates a gap and then take it down here. Or you can completely wait, right? Because if price doesn't pull all the way back up here and then drop here, you can wait and let it come down here to this weekly and then let price bounce off this weekly and take it up here to this weekly CRT low. Okay? So gold is finicky. Gold is very finicky though. But these are your zones. Okay? Gold respects structures sometimes, right? See how price came real close to that and then dropped. And then it gave you another entry here, right? If it doesn't give you a 50%, just wait and let price give you another opportunity in. Don't chase it, okay? And if it doesn't give you an opportunity, just watch it and see what it does, okay? That's called forward testing. Watching the market live, watching it play out. You can always learn from watching the market play out live. I like forward testing more than I do back testing. Okay. All right. GBP and ZD. What do we have here? All right. Looks like prices inside of our monthly. Yep, there's a video. There's two videos. The first one is how to trade the CRT range, and the second one is trading the CRT range, and it's on my TikTok page. All right, so GBP NZD, we had our impulsive move right here, right? Then price came back into this gap, which is our correction and our continuation. Now it looks like price is trying to trade lower, but it's still closed on top of this gap here. All right, so I am going to mark up this gap because this gap has shown me that it's still relevant. Okay, and I am going to mark up my weekly high, my weekly low, and 50% of my range. Right, now I'm going to come down to my daily. And this was last week. So this week, price has not ran a high or a low yet. I do see a gap down here that there's a possibility that price could come to. And then I thought I saw one above. Let's see. Okay, I don't see a gap, but I see liquidity right here. All right. So this is another one where price could go either way. Although this candle right here, we have 28 minutes left in this 4-hour candle, it is definitely showing us bearish engulfing. Okay. It left us an evening star and it left us a fair value gap. Okay. So my only concern is price not running last week's high. So price hasn't come out of this area. Okay. So that's my only concern with waiting for price to come here and then reject and then come here, because that it's not following all of our steps. For it to be valid, it has to run a high and then come back into the range. Okay. Break structure and then retest the gap and take it down lower. So GBP CHF, I'm not gonna set an alert here, but this would be one of those ones where we'll forward test it, right? If price does come back and reject and hit TP on the 50%, it'll just be a trade that we missed, but we saw what price did and then we can learn from it, right? All right, USD CHF. We got relatively equal highs. We're going to come to our monthly. Price is traded inside of our monthly. So we'll come to our weekly. All right. And we have a weekly fair value gap here. It looks like price has gotten on top of that gap. All right, then I'm going to mark my weekly CRT range, which is last week's high, last week's low, and 50% of the range. All right, then I'm going to come down to my daily. All right, and as you can see, price came outside of that range, so price was consolidating over here. See how price was moving sideways, and then we got this big bullish move up. Just price signaling us that it wants to go higher. Okay. And I see a gap right here. Let's see if price hit that. No. Okay. So price came close to it, but it did not hit it. So this will be a valid TP for our buy. All right. So now it's just where do we buy at, right? So we got all this sideways movement. Then we got this big impulsive movement. And then this is our fair value gap from that, I don't know if it was the daily or the weekly, from the weekly, right? So I'm gonna come down here in 1 hour. Oop. This would be a retest area here that price could come up to, or we have our new week opening gap. So we have two areas that we want to watch price come back into before price comes higher, okay? USD CHF. All right. And it aligns with our dollar, right? Remember, we have this gap right here and also a new week opening gap here. Okay. And the same 4-hour gap above. All right. So remember, impulse, right? Impulse, correction, continuation. Impulse, correction, continuation. That's what we're looking for. It's just waiting for the correction to finish so that we can get in at the continuation. Okay. So that's USD, CHF. What do we have left? We got GU, GBP CAD. Let's see if GBP CAD even worth it. GBP CAD is looking ugly. I'm not gonna mark that up. Okay. All right, so we're almost done with our markups. We got a few more pairs left. All right, so GBP USD. Hold on 1 second. Okay, GBP USD, we're going to go to our monthly. All right. Remember, this isn't a fair value gap because this candle isn't closed yet. So price is just trading inside of last month's candle range. All right. So now I want to come over here to the weekly. And we have a fair value gap here on the weekly. Let's see if price closed beneath the gap or above the gap. All right, so price is right above 50% of that fair value gap. All right. Now I want to mark last week's low, last week's high, and 50% of last week's range. All right, then I'm going to come down to my daily. Okay, and it looks like price came into this gap right here, which is what's sending us back up. All right, and in case price wants to come lower, this will be our target. All right, so the 4-hour is showing us some bearish movement, right? Price came up and ran this liquidity, gave us our last high. Okay, we also broke structure on the 4-hour, so this was our last structure point that took us up to our last high. Okay, right here, and price broke structure, and it left us with a huge bearish fair value gap. So if price cooperates and the dollar rejects that gap and continue higher, of course, GU is going to reject this one and continue lower. Okay. So that's looking nice. All right. And our TP area is this daily gap down here. Now, if this ends up doing a weekly CRT move, right, and price comes in and closes on top of this gap and retest it, then you can take it up to the 50%. I'm trying to see though. So this is Friday, right? And this is Sunday. Price has already filled our new week opening gap here on GU, right here. And price has closed underneath it. So like I told y'all before, I was taught if price comes underneath the new week opening gap, then it means that it's going to be a sell for the week. And if it closes on top, then it means it's going to be a buy for the week. So this is looking good for sales, right? Because this was our new week opening gap. Price came back to 50% of the gap and it rejected it heavily with this huge bearish candle right here. Okay. So now we just want to see price come back into 50% and then continue lower. All right. Now this is a big candle. Normally the entry is near the 50%. And then stop losses at the high of the candle. And then of course the TP, right? So this would be a 4-to-1. That's a 50 pip stop loss. So that's a big stop loss. I normally don't do a 50 pip stop loss. So with this, just like any other one, when price gets to this area, I'm going to be down here on my 15, my 5, my 1 minute, my 3 minute, looking for other gaps that was created off of that 1 hour fair value gap, okay? Or looking for a bearish engulfing, a pin bar, a evening star, okay? Or even another lower time frame break of structure, right? So this was our break of structure, right? With the gap, and then price moves back into the gap. You can look for that exact same thing off of this zone on the lower time frames to get a tighter stop loss, okay? So as it plays out, UJ and GU might be the ones that I post onto my TikTok page as far as entries, okay? If we don't get an entry on a live session. All right, so I'm debating if I want to mark these other ones up. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 7 more, and it's 30 minutes past my quitting time. And let's see. Price is looking kind of ugly on this. It's moving sideways. We need some type of impulsive move for price to show us what it's going to do on GBP CAD. It's looking ugly there too. Euro GBP just came into a gap. Hasn't hit 50% yet. If Euro GBP gets underneath this 15-minute gap and retest it, you can take it down to that 4-hour gap because price came short of the 50%. Okay. So from there, here to here, it's only 22 pips. Leave it be. Leave it be. And then NZD, USD, same thing as GU and AU, right? This 1-hour gap. What's your odd doing? Let's see. This 1-hour gap down to this daily gap, okay? Euro odd has moved its way down. It's moving too. What's GBP odd doing? Ooh, GBP odd just ran through that so fast. So these are going to be the ones that you're going to look for during London session, right? Let this finish. If it comes down and hit TP, then it just comes down and hit TP. It's going to be one of those sales that you miss. But during London session, price should move back up. Now, whether it's moving into this gap or this gap, I'm not sure. But price should move back up and let us in during London session, okay? What I've noticed is each session, price reverses, okay? So if it's moving down Asia session, London session, price should be moving up, and then New York session, price should be moving back down, okay? All right, guys, so I'm gonna leave these CAD pairs alone. I'm gonna move GU up because that was nice. All our AU, NU, USD CAD is doing the same thing, right? Come into here and then buy. Our USD pairs, as long as the dollar rejects that fair value gap and continues to buy, then of course the cross pairs are sell. Okay. I'm gonna take a minute and fix this real quick before we get off here because I said I was gonna do it this weekend. And if I don't do it now, I'm never gonna do it. Okay, so I just found out you can put all these into sections. If I can remember. Okay, add a section. Section 1, JPY. Okay, so I just found out you can put them in sections. So you go up here to this arrow, and then you click add a section, and then I'm gonna group them by pairs, right? JPY, odd, USD, CAD, possibly something like that. So I'll do XXX USD, right? So that'd be GBP USD. And then I'll do USD XXX, and that'd be like USD CAD, USD CHF. Okay? That's what I'll do. So let's move the JPY pairs in there. Should just be able to drag and drop. Nope. Add to. No, I want to put it in the section. Okay, I think that did it. Okay. AJ. GJ. Just make it a little less messy. Because I got stuff everywhere. GJ, UJ. Mm-hmm. Okay. XXX USD. So NU, GU, AU, EU, gold. All right, that's it. I'm going to delete these because I really don't day trade crypto. All right, I'll put my futures pairs into one. And remember, I use my futures pairs as cross references. Okay, so I'll do, where's the rest of those USD? Let's close that. That's that. Where did, I know I had USD CHF up here. Okay, I'm gonna name this USD. We're gonna move the dollar into that, USD CAD, USD CHF if I can find it. I don't see it, so I'm just not gonna worry about it right now. We'll do another one, and we'll do odd. All right, and EU, GU, odd CAD. I'll do indices. Oop. Where'd it go? Then we'll add US 30, NOS, and SPX there. All right, those are odd. We can do CHF as one. CHF. NZD. 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 All right, NZD, CAD, and Euro GBP. Why is the Euro GBP by itself? Ain't got no other GBP pairs on the back end. Must not be. That with CAD. That looks much better. Ooh. My friend showed me that the other day. I'm glad she did because I did not know. So if y'all didn't know and you trade a bunch of pairs, you can just go up here to watch list, add a section, and organize it. Also, you can create a separate watch list. So like you can have a study chart so that you don't mess up your trading charts. Okay. Alrighty, guys. It's 11:55. Thank y'all for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be on day 4 of our beginner course and continue to dive deeper into the Candlestick Bible. I was told that the link for the Discord isn't working, so just send me a DM with your email and I'll send you the link and then I'll get that updated tomorrow. And I think that's about it. It's 11:56, guys. Y'all go to bed. Have a good night. Set your alarms, set your alerts on your charts, and have a great day tomorrow. See you guys later.